In order to understand what I am telling you, you need to be receptive to ideas that contradict your own understanding of reality. Even if it sounds crazy, if you think critically and most importantly, honestly, then you will realize that we are indeed headed to World War III. This world is simply a chess set. And everything in this world is simply pieces on the board. The quicker you understand that, the faster you'll understand the position we are in. There is no such thing as coincidences. Things never happen just because. Truth is always bitter, but so is most medicines. An ability one must have in this day and age is to be able to know and absorb what information is valuable, and to discern what information is useless. How is mass media telling you to think? Who is mass media telling you to hate? Think past COVID-19. If coronavirus is the blinds, then remove them. What don't they want you to see? The trick is that in order to find the truth, you have to sift through the huge mountain pile of shit they hid it in. That's how they get away with the common moniker of free speech. Actually, in this case it works for them, because then they are free to lie to you in whatever way they please in order to keep you distracted and confused. When you remove the blinds that is COVID-19, otherwise known as the fake flu, you'll realize that once again another lie equal to that of the infamous weapons of mass destruction is being crafted again. The narrative that is being crafted against Iran and China will end up setting the next stage in geopolitics and sets a very dangerous precedent in global affairs. Iran and China have without a doubt dominated the headlines this year. With China it was COVID-19, and with Iran the recent escalation of tensions, including the assassination of Iran's top general. Irregardless of what we think, China and Iran have already been characterized and molded deep within our conscious framework. So much so that the powers to be are then able to craft our responses to the simulated reality and get us to behave in a way they can expect. The lie that is coronavirus is so cleverly constructed that both saying that it is real and that it is a hoax ends up being the truth. The way it was designed ends up being that both sides looking for superficial answers that satisfies the preconceived worldview get what they are looking for. And thus, it is never truly deeply examined. In order to unpack the actuality of coronavirus and subsequent lockdowns, there are statistics that we must look at and truly understand. A German study found that around 15% of the population in a local city had the coronavirus antibodies. Using this data, they estimated that the mortality rate was at 0.37%. 5 times lower than the widely reported numbers. Another separate study done in Iceland found that half of those tested has had the coronavirus, and that 7 in 1,600 known COVID-19 cases ended in death. Another study showed that 21% of the population of New York City already has COVID-19 antibodies, or 13 times the amount of cases. Meaning 13 times less deadly. These charts don't mean anything. They are just here to scare you. Feeling scared yet? The stats don't lie. No matter how much you try manipulate the data and flash puffed up projections, the stats simply do not lie. Look at the respected physicians and doctors around the world who are telling us that we are massively overreacting to this so-called pandemic. Never ever forget that the initial estimates of American deaths was at 2.2 million. Compared to 99,000 deaths, that seems a little off, don't you think? And if you want to point at the doctors who claim that this coronavirus is a serious pandemic, please understand that they are referring to the same dodgy statistics we see being constantly flashed at us on CNN. So then, if we know all that, then surely COVID-19 is a lie, right? If COVID-19 is indeed just a hoax, then what is the end goal here? What agenda is being pushed? When you realize the lie that is being pushed in your face, it's only natural to push back and look for the enemy or something to blame. Whether it's the elites like Bill Gates, microchips, or etc. You must understand that these are all red herrings. It's a safe switch that the powers that be planted, hoping that you'd be satisfied with your conclusion. I have one question to ask you, and you must think deeply about this. If COVID-19 is a hoax, why is China under lockdown? I reiterate, if COVID-19 is a hoax and is not as deadly as it is made out to be, then why is China under lockdown? The lockdown has had deep consequences economically that we can observe with our very own eyes. We've seen what has happened to the small businesses, and our jobs. Conspiracies that try to explain the forced demolition of our economy make sense to some degree, but they do not explain why China would needlessly put themselves in lockdown. Some try to explain this by claiming that China released the virus, and set the precedence of lockdowns to trick the rest of the world in believing it was more serious than it is, allowing China to get ahead, despite the fact that China thrives when the rest of the world thrives. It makes absolutely no sense that China would try to demolish the world economy and actively burn bridges to get ahead of the rest of the world, when it was already on track to do so naturally. So which is it? Is it a hoax or not? The answer, which is right in front of us, is both. It becomes truly frightening when it sets in, the reality of the situation. Because when you think about this logically, in the face of everything that is going on, then it becomes clear what is actually happening. China is under biological attack. If your knee-jerk reaction to this is that it's not possible that a virus can attack one person and not the other, then ask yourself why you believe that. Is it because you did the research? Or did a man in a white lab coat tell you that? There is growing evidence that the virus is lab-made. What other explanation is there? If you allow someone to tell you what's possible and what's not possible, you'll never be able to get out of the confines they placed you in. It's right in front of you. Coronavirus is phase 1 in steps against Iran and China. If you allow yourself to think critically, it becomes obvious what COVID-19 really is. China is a growing threat to the Western Empire, and the friction between Iran and the West is too obvious to point out. It is also undeniable that Iran and China have a relationship not unlike one we see with the US and the Saudis. Iran and China are a major roadblock to any type of global plan, it's obvious. China is really homogeneous and nationalistic as a country, and that is a complete threat to any type of global ideology. Can you imagine a foreign group trying to infiltrate China the way they did the US? I've never heard of Chinese Jews, have you? And let's not mention Jews in Iran. Iran and Israel are not exactly in great terms. War with China was always planned. COVID-19 is just the first of many steps in the global plan against Iran and China. Truth is never what we expect. And it's always bitter. But the faster we can accept the truth, the quicker we can figure out what happens next. But if we allow ourselves to waste time debating, and engage in useless talk, then there is no point in any of it. The pieces have to be put together, and put together quickly. Israel plays a key factor in the coming days of extreme geopolitical tension. Its history and exact details shall be left for another video, but its recent plans of annexation should leave chills in your spine. Jordan has already threatened Israel with potential widespread conflict should it continue with its annexation plans. Of course, Jordan pretty much represents most of the Middle East in that sentiment. The Palestinian Authority has also scrapped the 1993 Oslo Agreement, which is by far one of the most dramatic increases in the Palestine-Israel conflict we've seen in the modern era. It cannot be understated how big this is. It essentially dooms the two-state agreement, basically guaranteeing a return of conflict within the region. The most frightening of all, however, is the tensions between Israel and Iran. And what does this have to do with China? To put it bluntly, under the guise of Israel feeling threatened due to the annexations and subsequent Middle Eastern anger, Israel will strike Iran and bring a new war. Again, you might ask yourself what a potential Iran-Israel war has to do with China. The point of this conflict is actually to go China to take military action. Iran and China have been allies since the 70s. Could you imagine what the US response would be if Saudi was invaded? They would have boots on the ground the same day. And that is the exact desired response in regards to an Israeli-Iran war. An Israeli-Iran war is a US-China war. The Middle East is doomed for another massive large-scale conflict. We will see nuclear war soon. We will see nuclear weapons used, and either Iran or China will be the first to fire. The extreme state of the fear the world will be in is also part of the plan. They always weaponize fear whenever they can. If you think this is impossible, ask yourself, did you see 9/11 coming? Did you see the following wars coming in Iraq and Afghanistan? Did anyone see this pandemic happening? The plan has been set generations ago and nothing stops it. In fact, the world stops for the events they plan. This world is the plan. Just like 9/11 was an agenda to further advancements in the Middle East. COVID-19 is another step of a greater plan against Iran and China. Bill Gates and microchips is something the elites want you to worry about. It is purely red herring. The Middle East is in the most volatile state it has ever been, and the war to come will make all other wars look like playground scraps. Nuclear war is coming soon, and nukes will be used in the Middle East. The world is entering an unprecedented era. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe and feel free to leave a comment. Share this video wherever you can and stay tuned for the next video. Until next time, take care.